Tired of button smashing your way through AAA reskins? Hi, I'm Gifted Gray, and this is Monster Train Deconstructed. In this episode, we'll be deconstructing the played experience of Monster Train from a game design perspective. I'll cover problems associated with turn-based games, and I'll describe how those problems were eloquently addressed by Monster Train's developer, Shiny Shoe. Monster Train is available on PC and smartphone, as well as Xbox and Nintendo Switch, and frequently goes on sale for less than 10 fiat dollars. We'll cover its expansion, The Last Divinity, as well as prime you with the skills you'll need to fully engage with the game's mechanics. If you hate turn-based combat in games, I don't blame you. Most turn-based RPGs operate on nostalgia alone and have dated game design principles, like choosing from the same abilities every turn, which isn't fun at all. It's just redundant and boring. And if you're having problems defeating that high-level boss, the classic solution is leveling up by grinding out experience from weaker enemies. This alienates player skill by making it inconsequential. Getting good is just getting leveled, and the process of leveling up on less challenging enemies disrupts the feeling of escalation that normally keeps players invested. Some try to embellish this formula with enemy weakness and better graphics, but it doesn't matter when the core design is such a padded, time-consuming slog that no self-respecting person can even endure it. And what a shame, because if we judged the player-game interface as we would any other relationship, turn-based games are the only partnerships that demand player consent before progressing. Think of all the victims of gamer oppression, unable to pause at all, holding in their excrement while their dinner burns because they lack the emotional maturity to play a game that respects their boundaries. It's no wonder Monster Train is so well received. The boyfriend material equivalent of Ryan Gosling, literally me. Monster Train does nothing but respect player agency. And what a steamy locomotive it is, with experienced players reaching climax and finishing their bumpy ride in under 1 hour of play. If you're a hyper-vigilant, autiste savant, crank up the animation speed here and beat the game in under 10 minutes. Players create a game by choosing a dominant top and submissive bottom from 5 base demonic clans. A diverse selection of horny demons, woke eco-fascist, monsters that like to get wet, unrepentant consumers, an aristocracy with generational wealth, and with The Last Divinity, there's even a tribe of crystal-addicted worms, if that's what you're into. Each clan has a unique playstyle, and being able to mix and match them eugenically feels like a creative process. These choices determine the pool of monsters and abilities players might gain access to, and those unique combinations are masterfully exacerbated by each of the dozen champions. The story of Monster Train is simple. The rogue angel Seraph, racist and xenophobic, has broken the divine covenant, extinguished Hell's pyre, and now seeks to genocide the remaining denizens of this frozen waste. But the Lord works in mysterious ways. Your newly formed A-team barrels in with a fresh pyre fixed atop their bullet train, ready to penetrate Seraph's forces, relight the fires of hell, and purge the angel supremacist schema once and for all. At game's start, your path to victory is completely transparent. This is important because every game is fraught with variation. You'll have to survive a total of 8 battles, 3 of which are major bosses, but these battles and their modifiers exist on a continuum and are subject to change. For example, Seraph, the final boss of the base game, has 4 different iterations. Seraph the Diligent consumes the first spell cast every turn, while Seraph the Patient applies melee weakness and grows in power every time you cast a spell or place a unit on his floor. These variables are important to consider because you won't have access to the same abilities every turn. You will be curating your units and spells represented as a deck of cards on the top left. I've always had mixed feelings towards card games and randomness in general, because when the gameplay is too random, it can make outcomes feel like luck instead of skill. But randomness is a tightrope good designers must balance upon, because dialectically, if there isn't enough variation, mastering a game's mechanics guarantees a win, which isn't fun at all. well. By holding the defense of the pyre on 3 floors and having waves of enemies ascend 1 floor per turn, the designers have ensured that players will have access to all 15 cards, drawing 5 every turn before the pyre takes damage. From there, the randomness is curtailed even further, because your first hand is guaranteed to not only contain your champion, but a banner unit as well. This trend of balancing spells with units continues into future hands, allowing the difficulty to be scaled in a more focused way, knowing players will be endowed with healthy options for every turn played. Units, and the 3 floors they can be placed on, have a capacity value, and unless your units have the quick attack modifier, when your turn has ended, invading enemies get to strike first. The common strategy is to place your toughest units in front of your squishier allies, which might have higher damage outputs to make up for their lack of health. These units have myriad combat modifiers, so study them carefully when considering your lineup for each floor. Unlike unit cards, spells have no capacity, and their effects are instantaneous. This makes casting great for bypassing enemy front lines and protecting your forces from that initial volley. The spells you cast and units you summon have an Ember resource requirement. You start every game with 3 Ember per turn, but you'll have 2 opportunities to upgrade your Ember, card draw, and floor capacity before the final showdown with Seraph. The gameplay loop consists of battles followed by weighted decision making. There are 5 encounters involving a mix of 56 different enemies, ending with one of 13 minor bosses. These battles begin by tempting players with a bonus reward if they can handle a mutator that buffs the enemy's difficulty. The dilemma making is palpable, and biting off more than you can chew will derail your monster train. In earlier playthroughs, you can shy away from these bonus rewards, but as your Covenant rank increases, you'll need the added power to succeed. Challenges that offer banner units or artifacts are a big deal, so passing on those opportunities early is almost always a mistake. Besides these 5 minor encounters and the final boss Seraph, there are 4 other major bosses, and in a single run, you will face 2 of them. Like Seraph, these major bosses don't just show up as a relentless final wave, but instead harass you throughout the battle. The silver lining is that you can start working on their gigantic health bars early, and if you're as cheeky as your boy Gifted Grey, you can boggle them off before they hop your train. Vanquishing these major enemies grants access to Dark Forge upgrades, allowing you to specialize your champions further, but each Dark Forge only contains 2 of the 3 potential upgrades. In the time between battles, you'll also have access to other overworld events. Unstable vortexes remove up to 2 cards from your deck, allowing you to dump the trash cards the game forces on you, while Hell Vents give you an opportunity to duplicate your most powerful units and abilities. There are banners with 2 banner units to choose from, pyre heals and coin boons, as well as concealed cavern random events and artifact hordes. As you plow through Rebel Angels and Evangelical Zealots, your coin purse will begin to swell, so be sure to lighten the load at one of the extremely based feline grifters. There are unit and spell upgrade merchants, each with 1 high value and 2 discount value upgrades. They're even happy to purge weaker cards and restock their inventory unless you're poor. The divisive cattiness doesn't stop there, as these important merchants are never on the same side of the tracks, forcing players to experience anxiety in what Soren Kierkegaard represented as the dizziness of freedom. Upgrade your units, and you'll regret having weaker spells. Upgrade your spells and regret weaker units. Laugh at the foolishness until you weep over it. Do or do not do it. You will regret both. The last Divinity DLC doubles down on this dilemma building by offering up additional money and artifacts for a new currency. And unlike other forms of exchange where the debt upon your soul is quieted, packed shards hold no pretense regarding their malevolent design. The more packed shards you accrue, the stronger and more powerful your enemies become. And you'll feel like a kid in a candy store waltzing into their divine temples, where you can sacrifice your own kind and combine them creatively to make your very own precious hybrids. Reaching 100 shards or more and defeating Seraph opens up the real final boss, the last Divinity. Unlike the other major bosses that hover from floor to floor, TLD attacks every floor, every turn. This makes TLD extremely difficult to manage, your only saving grace being that all excess damage on all 3 floors is absorbed by its prismatic crystalline physique. I explained earlier how Monster Train is designed around 9 battles, so what's the value of a game that can be curb stomped in a single play sesh? Well, unlike other games where the player must level to experience new challenges, Monster Train levels up to you. It's not an easy game, but every time you beat it, the Covenant rank increases. There are 25 Covenant ranks to climb, and even the best players are fairly challenged at its most dizzying heights. I've seen people reload the game at start because they're chasing the ghost of some previously successful strategy, but believe me when I say they're missing the point. A familiar start does not guarantee familiar rewards, so it's best to navigate Monster Train with the same level of thrallness in which you navigate your life. The more open-minded you are to emergent opportunities, the more capable you will become at capitalizing on game-breaking synergies. This is why, after 300 hours played, I no longer choose my starting clans. I go full random on the hardest setting, taking every artifact and loading up on pack shards, embracing the guarantee of a unique experience, and not committing to a fixed build until destroying the first major boss. Monster Train respects your time, escalates tension, weights player choice, encourages neuroplasticity, and walks the tightrope of randomness without alienating players' skill, and that's what makes it so worthy of this deconstruction. Thanks for your support, and I look forward to seeing you on the very next episode of Gifted Gray Deconstructed.